so it's fun.
Okay.
I don't know what we can do now.
I will make a better shape for right now.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the February 26th Lebanon Board of Works meeting. The first order of business will be the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, with that, we'll move on to the roll call of members. Clerk will call the roll. Present.
Here we go. Here we go. Sorry. Jane Taylor.
Present.
Bill Stoner is absent today. Dick Robertson.
Here.
Alan Milburn.
Present.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, next will be the approval of the minutes from our previous meeting. I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve the minutes.
We've motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The minutes are approved. All right, we'll move on to department head reports. First up will be Police Department, Chief Wormuth.
Good evening, everybody. During the period between February 12th and today's date of February 26th, the Lebanon Police Department responded to 891 calls for service. A total of 44 citizens were arrested for the following crimes. We had 12 arrested for drug offenses. All the arrests were both for marijuana and meth at the same time. We had 10 wanted on a warrant, 7 for driving while suspended, 3 for domestic battery, 3 for operating a vehicle while intoxicated, 2 for resisting law enforcement, 2 for habitual traffic violations, 2 for theft, 1 for neglect of a dependent, 1 for driving while never licensed, and 1 for battery. We also issued a total of 15 handgun permits from our office. On February 15th, the Lebanon Police Department was happy to host a meeting between Indiana State Attorney General Curtis Hill and the local chiefs of police. The meeting was very beneficial and highlighted efforts being used to fight opioid crimes. Curtis Hill's thoughts on the opioid addiction mirrors a lot of our own local police chief, so we're very happy to have him there, and we think he's doing a great job. And on February 17th, our retired members of the department gathered at LPD for the second annual retiree breakfast. 16 retirees and guests were present for a warm home-cooked breakfast and plenty of camaraderie. A lot of war stories were told, and I heard the same ones last year, but they're actually getting better each year I hear them. We feel this is an honor to host this and give these men a chance to visit and reconnect. Unfortunately, the way I put this together is 2 years ago, we went to a former Lebanon officer's funeral, a retired officer, and I saw all these retired gentlemen getting together and talking, and I found out they had no formal meeting or anything, so we started doing a annual retiree breakfast just to get them all together, and they seem to linger for about 2 to 3 hours, so they have a good time, so we'll do this every year. And that's all I have today.
Thank you, Chief. I have a question.
Yes, sir.
When you report the arrests, is that a per individual or total of charges filed?
Which one, on the drug
So when you say
offenses,
the 44 arrests?
that's 44 individuals.
Individuals, okay.
Yes,
So
sir.
some of them may have multiple.
That is true.
charges.
Some might be arrested for battery as well as drug charges.
Okay,
But usually when we read the breakdown, you'll get the main charge.
gotcha, okay. By the way, I will mention too, there was a local event in the paper, and I just want to commend the officers of the way they handled the situation and really appreciate all the hard work you guys are doing keeping our streets as safe as possible. So.
Thank you, sir.
Any questions from the board?
No, thank you, Tyson.
Any questions from the public? Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thank you, sir.
All right, next up, Fire Department, Chief Batts.
Good evening, everyone. Since the last Board of Works meeting, Lebanon Fire has made 115 emergency calls of service, logged 158 training hours, performed 64 commercial inspections, installed 4 smoke detectors, and participated in 1 public education event. We are working and preparing for our ISO reevaluation scheduled for March 26th. Last Thursday, we met with an ISO officer to answer questions and assist us in preparing our audit. Things are going very well with it. Last Saturday's pancake breakfast was a great success. We would like to thank the public for coming out on a rainy Saturday and joining us and just a great turnout. Very happy to host the event. The Lebanon Fire Auxiliary is a group within us that provides, coats for kids and different things to the community. It's a charitable organization. This week, firefighter John Thompson is attending Fire Instructor 1 certification. Instructor 1 is a required certification for our Ride-Out Officer program, and it's also a part of the lieutenant's process. They must attain that Instructor 1 certification to apply for lieutenant. Today, Chiefs Baird, Wiry, and I held a meeting with LHS administrators and the School Resource Officer Chief Steve Smith. This topics was student safety during fire emergencies within the high school. And our goal is to revisit the risk management process for that, to make sure that we're doing the best that we can with student safety during fire emergencies. We're looking at maybe several different ways that we can handle fire drills and fire emergencies in the high school without evacuating the students and keeping them in a controlled environment. So we're going to continue to revisit this, put together a plan. If we do change what we're doing, it'll first happen at the high school, and then we'll move it to the middle school and on down through the elementary schools. Finally, we have several firefighters, including myself, who will again be participating in the American Lung Association's Fight for Air climb at the Salesforce Tower, and that is this Saturday. I was the victim of peer pressure. I was not planning on doing it this time around. I did it last year. It is very, very tough, but I've succumbed to peer pressure, and I'll be participating this Saturday. Our goal is to raise funds and make a positive impact on those who are suffering from lung disease. This is the third year that the department has participated, and each year we try to raise additional funds. If you would like to donate towards our team, you can look up our Facebook page and follow the link on there and support the Lebanon Fire Department team. This Wednesday, turn into the morning news in Indianapolis. LFD and firefighter Jason Adams will be featured on Media Day for the Fight for Air Challenge.
Great.
That's all.
Any questions for Chief?
No, thanks, Chuck.
Any questions for the public?
Good luck.
Okay, thanks, sir.
I'll need it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. All right, next up, Parks Department, John Messenger.
Good evening. Taylor Edens has officially accepted the office manager position at the park, and we are now currently looking for a programs director. There again, Taylor did a great job as programs director, and she accepted the position there. Already seeing great things out of her. Appreciate that. Applications will be accepted until March 12th with interviews to follow. So hopefully we'll have somebody in place by Easter, I'm hoping. There again, we currently just hired a full-time maintenance employee. We are still looking for part-time maintenance positions for the summer work, as well as lifeguard and concession stand staff for the summer. Actually, we have a ton of concession stand kids, but we're always looking for lifeguards. We finished up our downtown project last week and are now turning our focus gearing back up at the park, which is great. Everybody's happy to be back outside again. Beautiful weather today. Easter egg hunt this year will be March 31st at 10:30 a.m. at Herd Cabin. The Easter Bunny will be present. Dick, don't forget the Easter Bunny will be there so you can get your picture taken with him. Yeah, that'll be nice. Register now at the park office. The Daddy-Daughter Dance will be April 14th from 6 to 9 o'clock. The dance will be held at the Herman B. Wells Community Room at Lebanon High School. We have all those rooms there now. It was pretty tight last year. We only had 2 of them. We got all of them this year. Tickets are now on sale, and I swear we probably had 20 people in there today. It's really good. Great activity. Somebody called from Michigan that comes down every year too. They will be there. Him and his daughter, they've come down for the last 6 years, I think. It's really cool. Lap Swim has reopened and takes place on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday mornings from 5:30 to 6:30, and stop by the park to register. I also want to thank the 8th grade middle school kids that came out. They cleaned up parks, picked up sticks. did some other jobs, filled in some holes that AT&T left throughout the park. They did some nice community service. That's part of their project there. Really like it. And I also had the opportunity to read to some Central School students. They put on a nice program there. Saw quite a few there. Mayor, saw you there. Nice program, really nice. I got a lot of nice little neat thank you letters from them too. Really greatly appreciate the reach out for that. And they just do a wonderful job over there, all our kids coming up. That's all I had.
So, John, when I was talking to the elementary kids, they want an amusement park, roller coasters and all of that.
You had to ask, didn't you? Oh, my goodness.
Provide the feedback I'm getting from the kids.
I'm telling you, I heard all kinds of things, and it's really interesting. But I said, hey, that's great. Stop in the park. We'll talk about it. Haven't seen anybody out there yet. Boy, the ideas. I thought my book was pretty crazy. I read a book on the Three Little Pigs from a wolf's perspective. But yeah, I was surprised at some of their thought process too, though. Anyway,
thanks,
that's
John.
all I had.
Any questions from the board for John?
Thanks, John.
Any questions from the public? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, next up, let's do planning department. Ben?
Good evening, board members. Planning department operations over the last couple of weeks, we did complete 13 building inspections and issued 16 new building permits, and that did include 2 new residential constructions, so that's good news. On the code enforcement side, we have our typical numbers, but I did want to point out that Makeda has started coordinating with the police department on junk vehicle or illegally parked vehicle issues. I know she did a ride-along, I believe it was last week, with a police officer, and they tagged a dozen vehicles for towing that were parked illegally or junk vehicles. So she's going to be working more closely with the police department to get some of these issues addressed, and so we can cover more of the city when we've got some assistance for the planning department. So that's good news, and thanks to the police department for that. In terms of projects, the comprehensive plan is underway. As I mentioned last time, this first month is a lot of data collection and data analysis, so that's all kind of happening behind the scenes. But I do know that first opportunities for public participation will be coming up soon, likely in March or April, so everybody will be looking for those advertisements for that because it's important we get that feedback. In terms of the permit software we're working on for the planning department, we continue to work with the team, the consulting team, to develop the components of the new software, and we are on schedule in terms of development. We expect to roll out for that sometime in April, hopefully, as long as we don't get any setbacks. New residential development, just thought I would just kind of give everybody the heads up. We are working with 2 residential developers on single-family subdivisions, and those represent about 300 lots that we would expect over the next 5 years in the city, so that's great news. 2 of those projects will be in front of the council tonight for their ordinance approval, and then plan approval next month at the Plan Commission. So we're hoping to see some earth moving by summertime and some model homes going up by late summer into the fall. Several of us from the planning staff will be attending the Indiana American Planning Association conference later this week. It's on Thursday. I think Kevin, I, and Derek are all going. That's a good educational opportunity for planners in the state of Indiana. There's a lot of discussion about current planning trends and then also economic development as it relates to planning. So that's going to be a good event for us to attend and just update ourselves on some of those issues. And I know John mentioned big thanks to his team for helping us out over at the Estes building. Over the course of about 2.5, 3 weeks, they were able to gut that entire building for us and really set that up for the next step in the process over the next couple of months to get somebody in there and start making some improvements and investments in that building. So big thanks there to help us out while his crew had some time and we had something we really needed to get accomplished. And that's all I have, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Ben. Any questions from the board?
Thanks,
Any
Ben.
questions from the public? Okay, next up, engineering. Kevin?
Thank you, and good evening. I guess first off, I wanted to show off some new hardware we've got hanging in the office. This just showed up. This is our FEMA National Flood Insurance Program Community Rating System recognition for Class 7. That might not mean a lot to folks, but this replaces our Class 8 plaque that hangs in the office that we received in 2013. So I want to thank Deputy Director Warren for his efforts as our floodplain administrator in helping us to achieve this level. What does this mean to everybody? Well, this actually means if you're one of the unfortunate few in our town that have to have flood insurance, By us reducing our class from 8 to 7, you should see a reduction in the rate you pay for flood insurance. Some might say, well, 7 doesn't sound like very good, why not 1 or 2? Well, really, we can't get any lower than 7 at this point, because any efforts to get us into a lower rating would really require us to acquire properties along our creek and remove those and reestablish and restore the original cross-section of the creek. So 7s is about as good as we can expect to do. So that's a testament to the work that Derek has done over the years on managing that system. So just want to let people know. I'm not for sure when this will take effect in terms of your flood insurance rates that residents pay, but it's something to definitely check in on and watch closely in the coming months. So, great. While we're talking about awards, I should also point out, Ben mentioned the APA Indiana conference that we'll be attending. I would also point out that City of Lebanon is receiving basically an honorable mention award for the work that we've done in the planning of our downtown while we're at that conference. So some more recognition for the work that staff is doing. On to our engineering report, though. Talk about East Street, give you a quick update there. Obviously, we're getting closer to spring, and there's some remaining work to be done on East Street, including the Woodland Drive water tie-ins, a couple of water surfaces on Woodland Drive, curbs, curb backfills, walks, asphalt, signage, striping, landscaping south of the creek. It needs to get finished up. The contractor is continuing to regrade our stone at the crossings on Park Street, at the Washington Street and North Street intersections. I think since our last meeting, we've had them regrade that stone 3 times. It's a continual battle in this sort of freeze and thaw cycles. But with that being said, we seem to be nearing the end of that, although we all know that there's always seems to be at least one more snow sometime during the month of March before we get out of winter. But we are getting close, and with that being said, the contractor is expected to be here next week to resume concrete work on the project. So look for that. Tree selection forms went out at the end of the week before last, so we've already starting to see some of those come back in. So I would remind everyone to look in your mail. If you've got a letter there from the planning or engineering department, that is actually important. Please open that up. Return your tree selection forms. We're asking those forms to be back in our office by March 9th. If we don't receive your forms by then, we will make some selections for you because we have to finalize our tree selections by middle of March so we can order those trees for installation in April. That pretty much wraps up East Street. Moving on, the Northern Interchange feasibility study. We had a project kickoff meeting last week with NDOT. This is just sort of lay out the parameters of our study as we move forward, looking at the various interchange options from locations to configurations. It was a good meeting. We got a lot of insight and information that we came back with that will help craft our study. But the study really is in its infancy, and we are still planning to schedule a public meeting that we will invite residents who live in that general area to come and participate in. We'll look for that probably in the next month or so. You'll see invitations going out for that. And I'm just excited to keep moving that forward. Downtown plan. Construction documents are now complete. I think everyone's aware of that. Right-of-way acquisitions and coordination with local businesses continues. The engineering department has engaged Butler, Fairman, and Seifert for construction inspection services on the project, and they're already engaging in this process. We are beginning to negotiate contracts with them. Preliminary contracts have been provided, and those have been sent to our attorneys for review. But as I said, they are willing to help us throughout the bidding process, looking at our plans. It's another set of eyes. It's a peer review, if you will, making sure they don't see any constructability or coordination issues with the plans. So they've been very helpful from that standpoint. Schedule moving forward. Construction documents were published on the 16th. That notice was also then republished on the 23rd. We had a pre-bid conference in this room this morning. We probably had about 20 people here representing 4 different contractors and a lot of subs and suppliers. That's moving forward. That was a mandatory pre-bid meeting. Contractors had to be on site to be here to participate in the project. Moving forward, we will open bids on March 12th at this meeting and look to begin construction hopefully early to mid-April, again with all phases of the work wrapping up in July of 2019. Jamison Street Bridge removal, went by there this afternoon just to check on progress. Utility relocations are complete and they have begun demolition on the bridge. At this point, they've been removing trees, got some pavement removal done. The guardrails are out of the way. The bridge deck is still in place, but that will be coming down in the coming days. Remind everyone that is a Boone County project, as they are responsible for bridge maintenance for all bridges in the county, anywhere in the county that are over a 20-foot span. And then last but not least, our regional industrial pretreatment facility. We're still still continuing our negotiations on that project to get that off the ground and accommodate interim treatment conditions for Ken's Foods. That's all I have from the engineering perspective. Happy to answer any questions.
Kevin, when the bridge is taken out on Jameson Street, what do the end of the road treatments look like there? How do we make sure people know that the bridge is no longer there, or they're barricaded bollards and something? Absolutely.
On the north end, so the north end of that bridge is basically Busby Street. So at Busby, the intersection will be closed, of course, and the curb will be extended through Busby. So now there'll be a continuous east-west curb. There'll also be a continuous east-west sidewalk, and then behind the sidewalk there are bollards that will be put in place just to protect anyone that might forget that the bridge is no longer there. On the south side of the bridge, essentially Jamison Street will be terminated at an alley that exists right there that runs to the east, and again bollards will be put in place, and the sidewalk and curb connections will be completed.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Okay, thank you, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Street Department, Larry.
Okay, thank you and good evening. Since the last council meeting, we've only had 11 additional calls on top of the other things we do, and I think that's because we haven't had any snow. Since Kevin brought that up, we ended up snowing.
Knock on wood.
But I did visit the planning department, and they said they would be all willing to be called out. So if we get a 2 o'clock snow, I'll be sure and call them. The 11th Street Department has been busy with the calls for pothole repairs and street maintenance. We have had a few potholes that the asphalt has buckled up, and we've done a couple repairs today on that. It's because of the thawing and freezing and with all the rain we've had. So thank goodness for my crew. We've been on top of it, and we really haven't had a lot of calls, but once it starts to break up, we'll end up getting some. Also, we have been lucky the last 2 weeks with the weather, and I don't know if a lot of people have noticed, we've had our street sweeper out and doing a lot of sweeping, and we'll continue to do so this week and probably next week also. And again, that's weather permitting. The men have also done some cleanup around the street department garage and the mechanics garage. We try to do quite a bit of cleanup when we can. That also helps our MS4 program and keeps records pretty clean there. Later, we'll be announcing some dates for Yard Debris Week. That's where residents can actually take the leaves left in their yards and rake out along with limbs and things like that. But that's not going to happen until probably sometime in April. And then our spring cleanup, we've had a lot of calls on that. That date is actually the last weekend in April, and we'll get some more information on that in the near future. Also, Sunday we had some high winds. We had a couple large limbs and trees down. We took care of that today. And with the residents that have any limbs at their yards, just put it out along the street curb. We'll get them as soon as we can. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
Any questions from the board?
Thanks, Larry.
Any questions from the public? Okay. All right, next up, back from his mission trip from Haiti, Joe LePage, Communications.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mayor. It was a beneficial trip and brought home plenty of vanilla and did a lot of good work for many, many good people in Peridot, Hades, where we were for a week. Just updating you on some things. Finalized just today, our March absent issues will take place on Wednesday, March 14th at the 32 Bar and Grill, and that will happen from 11 a.m. until 1 p.m. As you may recall, in January, our first absent issues was in the evening. Our second was in the morning at the Boone REMC, and now we're going midday. And so what we're doing is limiting excuses. So if you say I worked third shift, so I can't be there for an evening meeting or a morning meeting, outstanding. Come by during lunchtime. We'll give you some free apps. And on the docket, the future of the Parks Department. Folks from the Parks Department will be there to talk about programming for this year, the comprehensive plan, and being able to answer any questions about amusement parks and other amenities that John has guaranteed to add to our park system.
What's that date again, Joe?
That is Wednesday, March 14th. Second Wednesday of every month, and we'll try to rotate it through different parts of town, different day parts as well. And again, that's free to attend, free apps and beverages as well. Wrapping up an event that happened just this past week, I'm sorry I missed it, was Savor Lebanon, the second annual that happened on February 24th. Reports our attendance was up roughly 70 people, which put our attendance to roughly 575 people. And that event continues to grow in popularity, and those who attended, talking to them, they had an amazing time. And if you didn't know already, a portion of the city's proceeds, because this is a fundraiser for the city's community development department, those proceeds go to the Boone County Mentoring Partnership. And so that was the not-for-profit the mayor selected this year to receive some of the proceeds from the event. And finally, coming up on Wednesday, February 28th, is a community job fair. Ken's Foods is coming to town and bringing with it some rather high-paying jobs. And on Wednesday from 2 p.m. until 7 p.m. at H-Tech, the Gene Haas Vincent's facility, you can go there and apply online and have some conversations, some right there present interviews as well. Machine operator from $18 an hour, forklift, warehouse, QA technicians. These jobs range from $18 per hour to $36 per hour for PLC technicians. And so you can apply for all those right there from 2 p.m. until 7 p.m. They're providing food, barbecue with Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce will be there as well. And you can just sit, fill out your application online, meet with the folks, and speaking with a gentleman from California, some of the bigger name folks from the Ken's Foods family will be in town just to kind of get a lay of the land and meet some of their potential employees here in Lebanon. So very excited to have them want to set up and do that. A great location right there on North Mount Zion Road. And then finally, in a few days, our newsletter will come out for March. If you have any information about an event that's going on, info@lebanon.in.gov is a place to send that. We'll get it updated on our community calendar on our website. It goes out on our Facebook, on our newsletter as well.
Okay. Thank you, Joe. Any questions for Joe?
Thank you, Joe.
Any questions from the public? Okay. Thank you, sir. All right. And last up, Stormwater Department.
Thank you once again. Stormwater Department, and since the last meeting, there's been only 7 calls for service. All calls have been responded to in a 24-hour period, so we thank Mr. Newell and his crew for those efforts. Weekly inspections continue on the various construction projects around the city. Obviously, those are beginning to ramp up as we get into the warmer weather, but there's still inspections ongoing at Auburn Meadows, on East Street, the Stokes Commons project, Ken's Foods, Storage Express. I'm sorry, actually we wrapped up Storage Express in the last 2 weeks. Witham Hospital and Pizza Hut, though, continue. And continue to work on cleaning debris and sewers as needed, especially as we get calls for any flooding. We had a couple of minor issues that I know David or myself or street department employees picked up on with the rains last week, but happy to say I think we were on that pretty quick and making sure that the water got where it needed to go. So the system seems to be in pretty good place, especially after the winter that we had. And with that, I think that's the end of our stormwater update.
Okay. Any questions from stormwater perspective from the board?
Kevin, have you heard anything about your grant or your funding that you asked for on the Grant Street project? We're talking
did.
about trying to get federal aid funds to
Oh.
increase that. Have you heard anything on that?
I have. Thank you. I can't believe I forgot to put this in the report. I was notified a little over a week ago that we did win the award from this is NDOT. We were awarded a grant, a federal transportation grant for funds to improve Grant Street. Those are monies to be spent in 2022. So it's a little bit out, but we'll have a lot of work to do with the increased level of environmental engineering and site engineering that will be involved, as well as it's a much more expanded project than we were planning to do previously. If you might remember, last year we were planning to do a road resurfacing and drainage upgrade for that corridor. This is basically north of the bridge, near the intersection of Washington Street and Grant, going up to Fordyce. The corridor, the limits of the project are still the same, but it will be a full street reconstruction, provided for on-street parking, providing for sidewalks, providing for lighting. All ADA infrastructure will be updated. I want to say it's about a $2.6 million grant from Federal Highway to cover the construction costs. And we will be eligible to fast-track that project, and it should be no problem because there's really not any right-of-way acquisition involved. So our plan would be, as we go through the NDOT process, once we have environmental documents in place, we will ask for, we will go into their exchange program, which essentially is a program whereby, since our project is ready, even though it's not slated for construction until 2022, if there are other projects that are delayed for some reason, we can possibly jump in line in front of those other communities and take their money. In exchange, they'll get our money in 2022. So we're hopeful to fast track that we won't have to wait till 2022. But I'd be honest, it's probably still a 2020 project at its most aggressive schedule.
Good. Did the utilities ever get that piece of right-of-way that they were trying to get off the bridge there?
I don't believe they have finalized that, but they did re-engage their consultants for right-of-way acquisitions. Probably about a month ago, once we knew we were shortlisted, they went ahead and went forward with the...
I knew there was someone living in the house. I don't know if someone bought it.
Yeah, the house did sell, so... there was one property that the reason the project really got delayed was essentially because of an easement acquisition issue, but that has been resolved at this point. It was a very unfortunate circumstance where both owners of that property passed away within about a week of each other, and there was really no heir and title there for us to get the easement from, but that has since been resolved, and that project's moving forward again.
Good.
Yeah, thank you for asking the question.
Any other questions from the board?
Thanks, Kevin.
Any questions from the public? Okay, thank you, sir. All right, that concludes department head reports. We'll move on to old business, and I don't have anything on the agenda for old business unless there's something from the board. Okay, with that, we'll move on to new business. So the only item I have here is for our new members of the board. Usually we send out, I guess, RFPs in the past, or was it bids? Yeah, in the past, we would go through an RFP process to solicit for our annual materials quotes, right? So for asphalt, sand, stone, sand, gravel, then asphalt, oil, and grease. So we're doing it a little bit differently this year with, we're obtaining sealed bids for this. So all we're doing is just asking for a motion for our authority to move forward and issue those sealed bids for our annual supply agreements. Discussion or questions from the board? Then I would entertain a motion to...
I'll make a motion we approve to go ahead and apply for our...
Issue.
Yeah.
Issue sealed bids.
Yeah. Notice. Yeah, I know.
Yep.
Notice for sealed.
All right, we have a motion to issue notice for sealed bids for materials, which includes asphalt, sand, stone, sand, gravel, and then oil and grease. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? All right, motion is approved, and we'll start working on that and get that together for our next meeting. Is there any other new business before the board? Any public comment? Okay, would entertain a motion concerning the claims.
I move to approve the claims.
We have a motion to approve the claims. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Claims are approved, and would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, we are adjourned. The city council meeting will be in at 7:15.